Hello everyone, it's Cyberpunk here, and for today. So, when it comes to gaming industries and companies, they always have to make the right decision. Sometimes they make a good decision, sometimes they make a bad decision, sometimes they can make a pretty dumb decision at times. But today, in this video, I want to be discussing something that has pretty much been around for a while now with Nintendo, as I've seen fans pretty much complaining from the fact of how Nintendo usually does this. They release a game, but also doesn't have anything big or, anything huge in this game that they have to fix it later. Some like to call this the fix it later release now, which I can definitely see why fans may think that. However, I feel like when it comes to, releasing free updates on a time, they actually have a good median, but sometimes have a bad meaning as well. But another thing I have to mention is that recently, with the latest Mario Strikers trailer, many were very disappointed from the fact that the character roster was lacking in size in terms of the recent Mario games and such, in which many fans like to call it unfinished, in which I do not think that would be the right word, but that's what we're going to be talking about this throughout the video. So, I want to be just discussing the whole approach, whether or not this whole, release now, fix it later is actually a good move on Nintendo at some times, or is it really a bad move? I just want to get this out of the way, so I don't want to see any more controversy about this. But let's just kind of start off with the discussion where I'm going to be listing a few games that actually were released, but also gotten updates later on throughout the video. Now, first off, I want to mention is that this whole thing has been around for the longest time. This is not the first time with Nintendo and such. However, this has been a thing with Nintendo for a while now. I think I want to recall it back to the early years of 2017 where the Switch first came out with the releases of both Splatoon 2 and ARMS. Both of these, are pretty much games that were released, but however, ARMS, for example. The game didn't have that much characters or stages or any good content, which is kind of why they decided to do free updates of adding new characters and stages every few months or so. Splatoon 2, however, is also pretty different though, as it released, I think like a new Splatfest every 1 or 2 weeks. And that's really kind of what it starts the whole free update thing, the whole free update situation and approach when it comes to having lacking of content and everything. And the thing about when it comes to having free updates, it's not really a bad thing, as I feel like as you pretty much put the game on, and the game will be still supported with free updates, that means Nintendo and whoever is developing the games are still supporting the series and the installment by just giving it longevity and all, which is really great as it also hypes things up. However, when it comes to, also doing that decision, that means the game may not be, because the game community can be confusing at times. When it releases, it all gets hype until after about a couple weeks or so, it is then forgotten and all. That's kind of what's really been happening for a while. Another thing to mention is this one, the Mario Tennis Aces installment. This one didn't really have that much characters. It was only 15 characters, while it was a huge improvement from the original Mario Ultra Smash one. The less characters has been kind of a little, how do I say this, underwhelming in a way. And that also includes the rest of the stages, and even an incomplete cutscene for the story mode when you started this up. You didn't really have a huge, big cutscene until like the year of 2019 and all, and I can understand that. And as time went on, Mario Tennis Aces has been getting more characters every month, and even with the Nintendo Switch Online membership, you can still get those kinds of updates. Another thing to mention is Mario Golf Super Rush. Now, this is pretty different than the ones I've mentioned. With Splatoon 2, ARMS, and Mario Tennis Aces, some of them actually lasted for a while. Splatoon 2 keeps getting, at least some, it keeps getting a new Splatfest every 1 or 2 weeks. ARMS gets a new character every 1 or 2 months, and then Mario Tennis Aces gets one monthly. However, with Mario Golf Super Rush, not only was the character roster underwhelming, but they kind of barely support this game at all, because the problem about this is that when this game was released, it was only 16 characters, with none having Diddy Kong, Birdo, Toadette, or anything. However, a couple of them did get added, along with the additions of Ninja and Wiggler. However, after that, they just kind of stopped with the update. The game didn't last that long, and look, Mario Tennis Aces lasted for almost a year, for like over a year. Splatoon 2 has been around for almost a couple of years, and while it did last a few months, it did actually give out some more longevity. This one, however, came out at around June, and from what I can recall, ended at around October, which is not really a good sign to me. The whole approach of having this game, because the question is, what was the point of doing this, whole game release, if you're just gonna update it later, but then, stop doing it to begin with? That's just one thing that I'm not too sure of. And yeah, I've seen some speculating from the whole DLC free updates with Mario Party games. Everyone thought Super Mario Party was gonna get free updates. It didn't happen. Same goes to Mario Party Superstars. That almost didn't happen. I mean, it feels like it's gonna happen at some point, but who knows? But then there's also Animal Crossing New Horizons. This game is full of many things. First off, when the game first released, it actually felt very empty, as you didn't really get to do much other than just hang out with your islanders, making the island pretty great. Design choices, even creating things, even going traveling with your friends, but that's kind of about it. Until 1 year later, and every month goes by, they always get a brand new celebration happening, such as, April having the April Fool's Day, Christmas obviously being Christmas, and then Thanksgiving, but we didn't really get a full-on update until at around November of 2021 with the Happy Home Designer, which it was lacking in content before that. But now we get to the two recent games that has kind of getting that treatment. Nintendo Switch Sports, and the culprit that pretty much started this whole video, Mario Strikers Battle League. Nintendo Switch Sports has only 6 sports. Wii Sports is such an incredible and, classic game back in the Wii era. But the fact that they added 6 sports, with 3 of them being new and 3 of them being old, one of them pretty similar to the other sport, is a little disappointing. And the problem is that there's also the addition of golf coming this fall of 2022. There is no release date, however, in which the problem is that with only 6 sports, the longevity of this game may last for only a couple of weeks. I mean, I'm still enjoying Switch Sports. The problem is that with the lack of content, it just makes me think that I might forget it at some point. And that also goes the same with this one, Mario Strikers Battle League. This is the reason why I had decided to make this, as I've seen many thinking that with the lack of characters, the lack of stages, or anything, that means the game is unfinished. In which, first off, I can understand why fans were not excited about the character roster being only 10 characters. We've seen past Mario sports games having a bunch of different, variety of characters. Mario Baseball Super Sluggers, Mario Tennis Aces. Heck, even Mario Kart Wii that had a variety of roster. Mario Strikers Battle League, however, not only wasn't missing Daisy, but with the 10 characters that many knew and love for the longest time, like Wario, Rosalina, Waluigi, DK, Yoshi, etc., etc., I can see why, but to call this game unfinished is a bit of a stretch, in which I want to get to this point of the video right now. These games I mentioned, they aren't necessarily unfinished, they just seem like they are lacking in content. Animal Crossing, Switch Sports, and even Mario Strikers are a huge example. You can even say the same thing for Tennis Aces and Super Rush, because the thing about it is that unfinished games, they're on, and free updates and unfinished content is a very different concept. Unfinished game means that the game is having either glitches, models clipping through, bugs, and even, audio issues. This happens with games such as Sonic 06, Fallout 76, and even Cyberpunk 2077. All those games were unfinished, and it really feels like when you play those games, it feels like the developers could have had more time to make it. Mario Strikers, Nintendo Switch Sports, and even Animal Crossing all isn't really unfinished. They are just lacking in content. Because if it was unfinished, Mario Strikers wouldn't look as good as we saw from the trailer. It looks incredible. Even from the developers of Next Level Games, they make such an incredible thing. But it's basically just lacking in content in terms of whatever you think of, stages, characters, just, anything, or just DLC in general. Those are lacking in content. Unfinished is completely different from that. So the real question is the addition of just releasing it now and, fix it later approach really a good or bad move on Nintendo? I'm gonna say right now, it's a middle for me. It can be good and bad. The good thing is that the game is still getting a bunch of love and support and even content throughout the next few months. Animal Crossing, Mario Tennis Aces is all getting that treatment. But it can also be a bad thing because the problem with that whole approach is that once they are done with it, they haven't really got anything else. For like Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, Super Rush, and ARMS lasted for a few months, and then after that, they just didn't do anything else with it. That's just kind of the approach that I just want to talk about in this video. I hope you guys enjoy it though, as I feel like I had to get this out of the way for those who are just confused with the whole unfinished and the unfinished and lacking in content, and also from the fact that many are getting a little over exaggerated from the whole approach in with Nintendo releasing the game but also decide to update it later on, which makes the game either dead or so. I feel like that's a whole misunderstanding, and I can understand why. It's been around for like a long time, but with Nintendo recently, I really think it's just a middle for me, whether it's good or bad. But I want to know all your thoughts and opinions down below about this. So with that, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for more videos, follow my Twitter, and if you guys didn't want to subscribe, then that's completely fine by me. And remember this, once a legend, always a legend. Like a Hellcat.